The air in the sports hall was humming with anticipation. Parents, siblings, aunts, and uncles fidgeted in rows of fold-out chairs, their faces shiny with pride and relief. Blue and gold paper banners draped over the scuffed basketball boards, a faint, sticky lemonade scent mixed with the odd waft of sweat. I stood behind the podium in my navy gown and cap, paper trembling in my hands. I wasn't the valedictorian, they'd given me the farewell speech because no one else volunteered. My throat was tight as I looked out into the crowd. Mum sat directly in front, her lips pressed together. My brother Lewis slouched beside her, his phone held low, likely recording to send to his mate Jamie with some scathing commentary. Aunt Sandra wore a lemon dress 2 sizes too small and an expression that said she had better places to be. Behind them a sea of faces, teachers, classmates, distant relatives, all folded into the communal hush that comes before a big moment. I took a breath, searching for the line I'd rehearsed in my room the night before. "We're all going our separate ways now," and I hesitated as I caught the eyes of Mrs. Dawes, my old maths teacher, frowning gently as if she expected a calculation error at any moment. "And I hope everyone finds what they're looking for." I fumbled the next page and coughed. A snicker drifted from the back. Lewis hid a smile, eyes darting. "I want to say," my voice almost buckled, but I pushed through. "I want to say you should do what you love, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else. My dream, well, some people think it's ridiculous, but I want to design sound." A splutter interrupted, louder this time. It echoed off the walls. I saw the McBride twins fold over in laughter. Someone muttered, "Sound what?" I pressed on, heat rushing to my cheeks. "I want to be a sound designer for games, films, whatever comes. Because the only thing better than music is sound itself, the way it changes everything, even a memory." The headmaster shifted in his seat. I saw my mother's jaw tense. Sandra rolled her eyes. I stammered out a few forced closing lines, but the momentum was gone. The hall pulsed with a current of derision, like a baseline you feel rather than hear. When the applause finally came, it was polite and thin, dying mid-clap. I stepped down, heart thumping, vision blurring with shame. That was the moment, my dream declared and then dismissed almost before I finished saying it, the start of 7 years in the wilderness. Community is a word that carries warmth for most people. In our part of South London, it was more like a stone around your neck. Everyone knew everything. By dinner that night, word had spread that I'd embarrassed myself at graduation, talking about becoming a sound engineer or something. Mum stirred her bolognese with jerky, distracted movements, barely tasting her food. "We always thought you'd do something respectable, Callum, teaching, nursing, even just something people understand." Lewis didn't hide his smirk. "You'll be making sound effects for cartoons." Pew pew, bang bang. He raised an invisible laser gun, making a childish explosion with his lips, and Sandra laughed into her wine. Dad, fresh from work, just grunted, "There's no money in that." I ate in silence. I wanted to argue, but the words stuck. I left my plate half-finished and went to my room, lying awake as the city's sirens wailed in the distance. Defiance stayed curled in my chest, but it was hard to feed it when every voice I'd grown up with said I was a fool. University was better, but only just. I found a course in sound design at a polytechnic up north, scraping together loans and a few battered boxes of hand-me-down gear. I rented a room above a chip shop, the constant hiss of fryers bleeding through the thin floorboards. My flatmates didn't care what I did, until I'd been up all night sampling the hum of the fridge freezer and recording it onto my battered laptop. "Seriously, Cal, my coursework is due and you're in the kitchen with a flipping microphone." It was meant as a joke, but there it was again, that tone, that little edge. For the first year, I rushed to justify myself to anyone who'd listen. "I'm building a library, environmental layers, Foley and field sounds, like how sound impacts what you feel in a film." At first, nobody understood. Some said, "That's cool, I guess." Others just nodded, half listening before changing the subject. Sometimes I'd call Mum and she'd awkwardly ask when I was coming home, as if each day away made my phase last a little longer. Near Christmas, I went back home for a weekend. Within the first hour, Dad found me alone in the kitchen and slid a leaflet across the counter. "It's for that new Tesco on Clapham Road. They're looking for people, assistant night manager, good pay for someone your age." I pushed it back. "I've got uni, Dad." He tried to keep his voice light. "Just think about it, all this sound stuff, well, it's fine as a hobby, but you've got to eat, haven't you?" I stuffed the leaflet in my bag when he wasn't looking, left it to rot among old receipts. My stubbornness grew roots, even as fear gnawed at the edges. After graduation, the certainty frayed. Everyone else seemed to find traction. Friends moved to London flats, got PR jobs, or linked up with agencies. I scraped by with gig work, trimming sound on 5-minute student shorts, mixing audio for podcasts the hosts never paid for, reworking bits of digital sound for indie games that never shipped. Months bled one into the next. The fridge was rarely full and my trainers sprouted holes. I started dreaming about home, not the place, but the food, the radiators humming, even the nagging. Part of me wanted to run back, admit defeat, say, "You were right, I'll work in the shop, I'll forget all this." The other part, the small, raw nerve, kept me moving. Every little job I landed felt like an act of rebellion. I tried not to tally up my bank account. Panic attacks showed up quick as lightning. I'd find myself in the flat, ears buzzing, palms sweating, certain my gamble was about to run out. At my worst, I unplugged everything and sat on my bed, shaking, trying to remind myself what life sounded like when I still believed I belonged in it. But sometimes, late at night, headphones tight over my ears, I'd build something beautiful. Water hitting glass, wind through alleyways, heartbreak stitched into a single perfect chord. I'd close my eyes and for a brief moment I was free. It all changed on a Thursday. I'd been scraping together rent with shifts at a dingy cinema, popcorn dust in every pocket, neon grease on my cheeks. My phone vibrated mid-mop. The email came from a studio I'd interned for the year before. Sonic frame tucked behind a theatre in Soho. Urgent, last-minute dropout. Can you deliver ambient sounds for indie feature by tomorrow, 2 p.m.? The pay was tragic, but the credits and exposure, the holy grail. I pocketed the mop, darted home, and worked through the night, layering the rush of crowds with the hiss of rain and the drone of city lights. I sent the files at 8 a.m. and collapsed, fully clothed, onto my mattress. 3 weeks later I heard back. Director loved the texture. Would you consider freelancing full-time? The jobs began to stack: podcasts, short films, a small mobile game. Once a BBC drama wanted sonic branding, the shudder of memory, the echo of loss. My name started appearing in credits, CALUMJ Field sound designer, but I kept quiet at home. Calls were brief, the details vague. Yeah, I'm still alive, still at the cinema. Yeah, I know, maybe I should send CVs. Success felt delicate, like a spiderweb. One wrong move and it would vanish. 2.5 years passed before I got the call. It was Sonia from Sonic Frame. "We've sold to Netflix. Main sound team's moving on. You interested in the lead design spot on our new series?" I nearly dropped the phone. Me in charge. Budget, equipment, a proper studio, and finally, a contract with numbers that meant I could breathe. I signed, packed up my whole sad existence, and moved into a proper place. Ground floor, no leaky pipes, decent heating. I turned a room into a studio, foam on the walls, new headphones. I started each day as if it was a dare to every person who ever called me daft. The series was called Deep Mirror, sci-fi, all flashing city lights and quiet heartbreak. They trusted me with everything: the machines, the future London soundscapes, even the emotional underscoring. I threw myself into it, pulling sound from the underbelly of the city, trains at midnight, wind whipping through alleys, the way the rain seemed to haunt. When it finally dropped, it went big, headlines, applause, even a BAFTA nod for sound. My name was everywhere at the tail end of glowing reviews. Lewis texted, "Saw your name on TV, mad." Mum called, they said sound designer. "Callum Field, that's you, yes?" "Yes, Mum." She hesitated, "My friends are all watching, you did well." Dad wouldn't speak to me directly. I doubted he'd watched, but Sandra told me he'd brought it up at the pub one night. "My Callum did that, the sound I mean says he's someone now." But there was always a wall, a space between my world and theirs. The invitation to talk at my old school came just after the BAFTA nomination. Mrs. Dawes tracked me down, fussing as usual. "We never get anyone in your field, Callum dear. Would be such an inspiration for the kids. Most don't know what a sound designer does." She slipped in quietly, "Perhaps a little something for the families too." I knew what she meant. A chance for the community to show off one of their own. It strung, but I agreed. I pictured the halls as they were, a little flakier, dustier perhaps. I told myself I'd keep it professional, that I wouldn't care who showed up. The day was overcast with a mean-smelling drizzle flattening the colour out of everything. I got off the train at Streatham Common, heart pounding. I felt taller but no more certain. I wore new black boots and my best dark shirt. My hair, cleaner this time, was sprinkled with new grey at the edges. The sports hall was the same, faint smell of feet and bleach, scratchy banners, teachers bustling with flustered pride. The difference was the stage, bigger, better lighting, a projector humming at the ready. Rows of young faces, older faces. I scanned the crowd and saw my family up front, Mum in the same blue coat, Lewis in a shirt for a change, Dad with arms folded close to his chest, Sandra with her "well, aren't you special" smile. Mrs. Dawes introduced me, gushing, "One of our own, proof that South London breeds ambition as well as talent." I took the stage, the same fear pulsed in my chest, but it was different this time, smaller, more familiar. The audience hushed. I told them about recording tube stations, about stalking the city at dawn for a fresh layer of noise. I played clips, how sound can make a street feel haunted, how one tone can say, "You're not alone." But I saved the moment. "I want to show you something. This is a scene from Deep Mirror. If you listen, really listen, you'll hear parts of this very hall, echoes from streets you know, stitched into the fabric." I pressed the button, the screen flickered. A shot of future London, rain spearing neon, a lone figure running across a bridge. The sound peeled out, rain, yes, but not just rain. The cheer of school crowds, the shuffle of feet, vague enough to recognize as something familiar. The walls of the gym seemed to pulse with the audio. The scene built, footsteps, a train rumbling, a door slamming just out of sight, our door at home, that heavy click. A police siren winding through, lifted straight from the audio I'd once recorded outside our flat when I couldn't sleep. The tension changed. I heard the gasps, the rustle of bodies realizing that what they were watching, the thing they'd dismissed, was alive with their own sounds. The familiar transformed. The applause swallowed the silence. I turned to look at my family. Mum had tears in her eyes. Lewis was silent, staring at the screen. Dad just blinked as if he'd missed the trick but knew he'd witnessed something real. Sandra finally looked surprised. Afterwards, there was a crush at the edge of the stage. Kids wanted selfies. Little clusters of teachers peppered me with questions. Even Mr. Dodds, the PE teacher, once my biggest heckler, clapped me on the back and asked, "How'd you get the rain just right then?" I laughed, the release washing years of shame off me. "You just have to listen." The real reunion came after, outside, as the sky started to clear. Mum hugged me till my ribs ached. "You turned ghosts into music, Callum." I never understood, but I do now. Sandra hung back, her smile softer. "Was more than sound, wasn't it? That was your life up there." Lewis snuck in close, showed it to Jamie, you know, he almost choked, he's jealous. Dad stayed last. He shuffled his feet, words sticking. "Did good son, never thought." "Well, you stuck it out, didn't quit." His hand landed on my shoulder, steady for once. No more talk of Tesco, no more jokes. I looked back at the hall, at the crowd emptying out, and felt the weight lift. I'd left this place believing I was less for my dream, less for wanting something they couldn't see. I'd come back with proof woven into everything they heard. That night around Mum's old table, laughter filled the gaps that once held only silence. Even when the light grew thin, I couldn't stop smiling. I'd made it, but better than that, I'd brought them with me, into the world I'd built from nothing but sound.